The first scream didn't come from a throat. It came from the station itself, metal shrieking as the airlock doors slammed shut on a mother and her newborn cubs. I was elbow deep in a grav stabilizer when I heard it. That sound still lives in my bones. They stood in the quarantine corridor, framed by cold white lights. A feline alien female, fur pale as fresh ash, clutching 3 tiny cubs to her chest. Albino. The word rippled through the gathered crowd like a curse. On Karsis Station, albino Zarathi were considered malformed. Bad omens. Genetic waste. The guards didn't even look conflicted when they raised their shock spears. And that was when everything began to go wrong. I'm Elias Rourke. Human. Mechanic. The kind of man who fixes things others throw away. And when I saw the terror in her eyes, golden, luminous, too intelligent to be ignored, I knew this moment would define the rest of my life. But I didn't know how much blood compassion would cost. Not yet. The Zarathi matron backed against the sealed door, her tail wrapped instinctively around her cubs. They were barely hours old, eyes sealed shut, mewling softly. One of them had an extra tremor in its limbs. Neural instability. Maybe another reason the council would never allow them aboard. Station law. A guard barked, mandibles clicking. Defective genetics are prohibited. Remove the subjects. The crowd watched, some with curiosity, most with relief that it wasn't their problem. I wiped my hands on my jumpsuit and stepped forward before I could think better of it. "Hold on," I said. My voice sounded too loud. Too human. Every alien I snapped toward me. Humans were tolerated here. Useful. Disposable. Never authoritative. The matron met my gaze. In her eyes, I saw something no scanner could register. A plea. But that was only the beginning. The guard sneered. "Stand down, mechanic." "No," I said. My heart hammered. "You're going to kill them." "They're albino." Another voice chimed in. Council Overseer Threx. All chitin and cold logic. Their kind brings instability. History proves. History also proved humans were dangerous once. I snapped. "Still let me fix your reactors." Murmurs spread. Unease. The kind that comes before violence. Threx tilted his head. "You are emotionally compromised." "Yeah," I said quietly. "That's called being alive." What I saw next changed everything. The matron lowered herself, slowly, deliberately, a Zarathi sign of surrender, of trust. She pressed one clawed hand to the deck, then to her own chest, then toward me, a bonding gesture. Gasps echoed. Zarathi did not bond with outsiders. Ever. And she chose a human. Threx recoiled as it burned. Unacceptable. The shock spears hummed, charging. I didn't think. I lunged. I slammed my emergency override into the corridor panel, dumping power. Lights died. Alarms howled. In the chaos, I scooped up the matron and her cubs, sprinting down maintenance access ways only humans ever bother to map. Behind us, the station roared with fury, but that was only the beginning. I hid them in Bay 17, my bay, the one nobody visited because it smelled like coolant and old mistakes. I sealed the door and slumped against it, breath ragged. The matron watched me carefully. Her fur shimmered faintly in the low light, almost translucent. Up close, I could see the scars along her flank. She'd already been rejected once. Maybe more. I activated my translator. "You're safe. For now." Her voice came out soft, musical, trembling. "You risk death for broken ones." I swallowed. "They're not broken." She looked down at her cubs. One stirred, tiny paw flexing, her ears flattened in sorrow. "The council says we are errors." "That's funny," I said. "They said that about humans too." Silence stretched. Heavy. Charged. Then she asked the question I'd been dreading. Why help us? I didn't have a heroic answer, just the truth, because someone should have helped my sister. She didn't ask more. She didn't need to, but none of us were prepared for the truth. Over the next days, the station searched. Security drones swept corridors. Council edicts blared warnings. Anyone aiding the fugitives would be spaced. I should have turned them in. Instead, I rewired my med scanner and ran tests on the cubs. That's when I saw it. Their neural patterns weren't defective. They were advanced. Hyperadaptive synaptic lattices. Quantum resonance nodes forming before my eyes. The albino gene wasn't a flaw. It was an evolution. And the Zarathi knew it. They had always known. The cub with the tremor wasn't sick. She was stabilizing space-time around her tiny body without realizing it. A living singularity regulator. My hands shook as the implications crashed down on me. The council wasn't afraid of weakness. They were afraid of power. Around 40% into the nightmare, the truth hit me harder than any Shakespeare ever could. The albino line was prophesied, a new caste, a threat to the rigid hierarchy of Zarathi society. So they culled them every time. What happens if they grow? I whispered. The matron's voice was hollow. They change everything. And that was when the station power flickered. Gravity lurched. Hull groaned. The cub in her arms whimpered, and reality bent. Tools floated. Sparks froze midair. Time stuttered. Then it snapped back. Alarm screamed across Karsis Station. I stared in awe and terror. Oh, hell! But that was only the beginning. The Council stormed Base 17 with armed drones and guards. Threx himself led them, eyes blazing with vindication. You have endangered the station, he hissed. Surrender the anomalies. The matron stepped forward, placing herself between them and her cubs. Her fur bristled. You fear what you cannot chain. Threx sneered. We fear extinction. I moved to her side. You brought this on yourselves. He regarded me coldly. Human compassion is inefficient. Maybe, I said, but it's contagious. The cub cried again. Reality warped violently. A drone imploded, crushed by invisible pressure. Another folded in on itself like paper. Panic erupted. Threx shrieked. Destroy them. I didn't hesitate. I hit the bay's emergency launch. The floor vanished. We fell into space. For one endless heartbeat, there was nothing but stars. Then the cubs glowed. A translucent field enveloped us, warm, humming with impossible energy. Space bent around the bubble as if welcoming them. The matron clutched her children, eyes wide with wonder and terror. They are awakening. Behind us, Karsis Station fractured, systems failing as the cubs unconsciously rebalanced gravity and energy flows. They were fixing the station, even as it tried to kill them. What I saw next changed everything. The Zarathi Council broadcast on all channels, begging, not threatening, begging. Return the children, Threx pleaded, voice breaking. We will change the law. Too late. The matron looked at me. What do humans do when their children are hunted? I smiled sadly. We leave, and we build something better. We aim for the stars. Weeks later, we reached a dead system, an empty rock orbiting a quiet sun. I helped build a settlement from wreckage and stubborn hope. Other outcasts came. Humans, aliens, those rejected for being different. The cubs grew fast. Brilliant, gentle. They stabilized atmospheres, healed radiation scars, listened to the universe like it was speaking directly to them. They called me Uncle Elias. The matron, Ashare, stood beside me as we watched the first sunrise over our new home. Your kind is strange, she said softly. You protect what frightens you. Yeah, I said. It's our best feature. Far away, the Zarathi civilization would eventually fracture, haunted by the future they tried to erase. And us, we became a legend, a warning, a promise, because the day they rejected a mother and her albino cubs was the day humanity chose compassion over fear and changed the fate of the galaxy forever.